Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We are very happy to be here again together today. Steven will be a little bit late. He has another meeting running, so he charged me to start the meeting. So this is what I'm doing, and I'm very happy to be here today together with our dear friend Giulio Carvalho from US. Hello, Giulio. How are you?
Hello, Charles. How are you, buddy? I see that you're cold as well. We had a lot of snow in the region I'm from. So,
Ah, yes.
yes, a gigantic storm that hasn't happened in about 20 years.
Mhm.
A lot of snow, a lot of shoveling.
This is the laws of nature, huh? And the laws of nature they are immutable, huh? Done by God. And now we discover slowly but surely the effects of what we have done, huh? Our consumption and whatever on the nature itself. I'm currently in Portugal, and the same happened here. They have never seen so many, not snow, but rain, and even so strong storm and winds as happened in these 2 last months. But that's life. We are still here, able to connect and able to work, because work is exactly the subject of today. Okay, so I will start with the first question, Giulio, if you don't mind. How does Spiritism define work?
Mhm. Well, my friend Charles, as you know, we spiritists, we try to study from all different sources, but the backbone of our argument, since we are in a spiritist meeting, it is the Spirit's book. And in the Spirit's book, which is divided into four different parts, we have the third part that is dedicated to moral laws. And inside that chapter, we have the inside that part, we have the third chapter, which is called the law of work. And the codifier of the Spiritist philosophy, he had the presence of mind to ask the highly evolved spirits their definition of work. It's so interesting how Allan Kardec had this presence of mind to ask questions that to us seems obvious, but in reality, when you stop to ponder about these questions and each word that he used, they're very profound indeed. And what is the definition of work according to the highly evolved spirits? We have the definition of work according to physics, which is force times distance. But what would be the
Ex-
definition of work according to highly evolved spirits? And they say that in any activity that we're engaged in, which helps us develop our morality, our intellectuality, that is work. And this is an interesting definition because when we think of the word work, we associate only with physical activities, shoveling snow, for example.
Yeah,
That's a lot of work, carrying wood and driving. But in reality, someone who's writing a book, that is intellectual work. Someone who dedicates themselves to research, even though they're sitting down just thinking about their hypothesis, that is work because they are engaged in a productive activity.
exactly. So it's not only physical but also intellectual, huh? And even doing good, huh? Helping someone who is in despair or who is grieving or whatsoever is also one form of work, isn't it?
Yes,
And
most definitely. Because the physical work that we do guarantees food in our stomach, shelter over our heads. But the kind of work you're referring to, my friend Charles, spiritual work, doing charity, helping others, that source of work nourishes our soul because it keeps us in peace. It helps us to atone for our mistakes from the past by helping today. We are annulling what we have done in our past reincarnations. And that is the kind of work that we want to dedicate ourselves to because that source of income never disappears. That is the source of income that we can take with us, which is the peace of mind for helping other people.
Exactly. So it's indeed everything aligned with this spiritualist paradigm, isn't it? And we can also ask, why do the spirits reincarnate? Why did we reincarnate? Huh? We reincarnate here in a material world with a material body, and this obliges us to work as per the well-known laws here on Earth. We need to work in order to get some income, in order to provide for food, in order to have a roof, protection, to have also some leisure and things like that. All this requires work. And when the spirit incarnates, it is somehow obliged to do this work through the status of living in a material world with a material physical body. When we go back then, or before we came back to incarnate, or when we go back to the spiritual world, it is indeed this other form of work, non-physical work, which is intellectual work, help, emotional work, intellectual work, researches, and things like that, which are the occupation of the spirits in the spiritual world, or when we are discarnated. So it's not. It does not mean that the work is necessary when we are incarnated. That the spirits on the spiritual side do not work, isn't it? So, because again, we repeated it always, the main purpose, the main goal, the main reason why we are incarnated is the progress of our soul. And it's exactly what you said. Work is all what contributes to this progress, whether it is physical or intellectual or emotional or spiritual or whatever.
It's
Okay.
indeed, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go on, go on.
It's very interesting, your input, Charles. And whenever I am engaged in this sort of activity, which we're throwing this material out there, I always think of the non-spiritist audience, because I like to address people who never heard this information before. And I try to imagine how surprised they feel when they hear what you're saying about all this sort of activity in between planes, in the afterlife, between reincarnations. And I think the surprise comes from the fact that we have this historical notion that once you die, you rest. This is why we write in our tomes, rest in peace. And if only people knew that there is no rest whatsoever, there is a lot of activity. So anyone who's listening to this, if you want to know more about how active we are in the spiritual plane, there is a book entitled Workers of Life Eternal. This was a book written by a physician named Andrea Luis, and he writes his experience, and he describes what he sees from a doctor perspective or from a scientific perspective. And this work, and in this book, it describes all different kinds of activity people are engaged in the spiritual plane. Not only that, but the amount of work that is required for us to prepare ourselves for a new reincarnation. Because when we are in the spiritual plane, we see ourselves, the world, and others from a completely different perspective. We see that life is nothing but an opportunity for us to develop intellectually and morally. And as a result, we prepare a lot, we work a lot in the spiritual plane, uh, designing, preparing, planning our future reincarnation. And the choices that we make, it's always engaged in a lot of activity for us to develop ourselves morally. So yes, work is everywhere in the physical plane and the spiritual plane.
So that's a good point you just mentioned, Julio, is when we reincarnate, the question is, do we participate to the selection, to the choice of the work and of the missions we in this life? Or is it just coming like this by chance or whatever? So the Spiritist body of knowledge teaches us, no, we participate to this selection, and we know what we need to develop for our soul, our spirit to progress. We know where it is maybe still a little bit weak, where it has more to learn in order to progress efficiently. And this is then driving the choices we make before incarnating. And with regards to this, the question then is, Giulio, can any job be part of a spiritual mission?
Well, if our job is directed in somehow bettering the lives of other people, yes, it is definitely a spiritual mission. From the Spirit's book, Charles, we have question 540. Can we consider parenthood a mission, which requires so much work? And yes, it is work and it is a mission because we are preparing a future men and women to be our civilization of tomorrow. And the highly evolved spirits in that same answer, they come to actually warn us. There, unfortunately, a lot of parents, they dedicate more their time to take care of their gardens than to take care of their children, not knowing that they are not fulfilling their mission to prepare their children for the world, for life. They educate their children as if their children will remain with them forever, and nothing further from the truth. These are independent spirits with their own goals, with their own missions, and we must help them to fulfill that mission. And that requires them to do a lot of work. And that usually begins early on, Charles, in childhood. Because when we do everything for our children, and this is the misconception of loving someone, that you do everything for them,
Yeah.
You teach them the value of laziness, of idleness. And the result of that, you create very weak men and women for the future. There is a saying from that goes like this: tough times create tough men. Tough men create easy times, and easy times create weak men, and weak men creates difficult times, and then the circle continues. So it requires work to create tough men and women for life. And if we are a parent and we are lazy in our responsibility, we will create weak men and weak women, and that would actually have negative consequences in our future because they will be forever dependent on our help.
Very well. Yeah. This is indeed, I would say, we select when we select a work as a mission, we can maybe recognize this type of work during our life. It's because this is the type of work we do with joy, with pleasure, isn't it? Whilst sometimes we have to work to repair or to expiation of something, and that is then a little bit more painful to do. So we can quite easily see the difference between both. And the question here is also we can ask, okay, we have this work like education and so on in the family in order to learn, to develop our intelligence and so on. But we work also for there are, if we don't take care, we can fall into some other traps. And I use a word which is used for this is workaholic. So the question here is, what is really the limits? What is the difference between a career ambition and a spiritual vocation? How can we make the difference between both?
That is very difficult to analyze because it depends who are we talking with and the kind of mission that they have. Uh, in the same chapter that we already mentioned, the law of work in the third part of the Spirit's book, we also see that there is a law of rest. And when we rest, that activity should be the means by which we regain our strength in order to continue to work. And I just want to open a parenthesis here, Charles, is that unfortunately, it's in moments there our body's supposed to be recuperating and re-energizing. People do all sorts of things that is against the well-being of the body. I'm not criticizing, it's just an observation. Sometimes I go on vacations and then, I see these people just consuming all this stuff in the name of fun. And what they're doing to their bodies is just bombarding their bodies with chemicals in which is not helping at all to restore their energy. So here in the US, we have a saying, you need a vacation from your vacation, because during vacation, they did so much that is unproductive to their body that they come really tired from their vacation. So that contradicts the purpose of vacationing, which is to recoup our energy. But going back to your original question in regards, where do we draw the line of work being productive and work, actually being addiction, and the person becomes a workaholic? This is very difficult to analyze because it depends on the person's ambition. Are you working just for the sake of accruing money? That's all you want to do, is just get rich and that's it? When we analyze the lives of people who are very successful, these individuals were workaholics, but not necessarily because they were after money. They were after the need to promote ourselves, all of us, through progress, through technology. For example, Henry Ford, he was an workaholic. But this man, his goal was not to make money necessarily. His goal was to make a car that was affordable to everybody. Before Henry Ford, there was no such a thing as the production line. A car had many individuals involved in just creating one car. Now, if you are the seller of that car, you need to pass down the costs of producing that car to everybody who's going to buy that car, to pay for all the workers involved in the production of the car. But Henry Ford had the brilliance of mind to create the assembly line. And with the assembly line, the production of the car completely lowered to the extent the car became very affordable. What most people don't know is that Henry Ford did not revolutionize only the car industry, but all industries, because from that point on, Charles, all industries had a production line, which lowered the costs of production, which lowered the costs of things for us to buy. And with that, he changed the world. And in the process, he became very rich. A more modern example is Elon Musk. If we go back about 20 years ago, everyone will call this man crazy. In sleep, you work 18 hours per day. That's all you do. And you would label him as a workaholic. You label him as being crazy. You label him as being avaricious. All he thinks about is money. But look what he did. He changed the world through his work ethics. And now he's reaping all the benefits of helping us moving forward. And one additional thing I like to talk when we are referring to these people, Charles, is that when they begin producing their products, they begin producing products that are very expensive and only the rich people can buy. For example, back in the 1990s, the first cell phones came out, and it was this gigantic brick that people carry around, So if you don't know about economics, if you don't know how the world works, you look at that guy and you say, look at this show off. He just want to show his social status, that he's very rich. But, thank God for rich people that they can afford to buy these very new things, because by having more money coming into the company, there is more research. And the result is that they do research to make parts cheaper. And now the entire population can have cell phones, not just the millionaires. So we need to appreciate these people who solely dedicate themselves to help humanity progress. And that requires a lot of work. And we might find ourselves labeling them alcoholics, when in reality, they came here to change the world. Nikola Tesla
Mm.
is another great example of this. But if I continue giving examples, I'll never
Yes,
finish
please.
with my answer. I mean, Nikola Tesla, these guys, I know, if anyone knows about physics and electricity, for example, back in back in the last century, in the beginning of the early century, we had two train of thoughts competing with each other about direct current and alternating current. So we had Thomas Edison proposing DC for electricity and Nikola Tesla proposing AC for electricity. Now, both of these men, you would label them as workaholics, and both of these men transformed the world. Thomas Edison is responsible for more than 1,000 patents. Most people just know him about the light bulb, but the movie industry is credited with the work of Thomas Edison. And Nikola Tesla, this man worked really hard because he revolutionized all the machinery back then. And we use, the electricity that we are currently using right now. This meeting is possible due to the work ethics of Nikola Tesla. Because if it wasn't for Tesla, we wouldn't be here right now because we are connected through electricity. Electric magnetic waves are sending the information that all of us are seeing right now. And if we were in the present with those individuals, we will label them, look at this guy, he's just crazy. All he thinks about is work. But we don't know his mission. We don't know the intentions behind that particular individual. And then there are those, Charles, that completely forget their families and friends, and all they do is just work, work, work because they want to accumulate things. And it gets to a point that they don't have things. The things have them because they put all their source of happiness into that thing. And if they lose that thing, that's when they become completely miserable. So in the Spiritist philosophy, we learn that we should not attach ourselves to material things. Reason being, it's because we are all obliged. I'm going to use your word. We are all obliged to detach ourselves from material things once we are forced to leave this biological machine. And the more attached I am to a material object, a source of my wants and needs, the more painful will be the detachment. So, where is the equilibrium? Where is the balance? Because we are in the material world and we should have material things. Well, I want to take care of the object, but not put all my hopes and happiness in the object, because I will eventually be detached from this object. And if I'm really attached to it, that will be a very painful detachment. So, in the Spiritist philosophy, we have many books on the accounts of people who are attached to their homes, attached to their cars. And it's in popular culture, you know that as haunted houses or haunted cars, because the individuals who temporarily managed those objects, because we don't own anything, they were temporarily managers of those material things. They don't want anyone to have those things. And this is why they hunt people down.
Excellent, Julio, and welcome back, Stevan. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's again what we just told. I mean, everything is in the intention. Work, as per the definition we gave at the beginning, is what contributes to progress of humanity, progress of the planet. And indeed, abuse of work or accumulating things or gambling or speculating or whatever does not promote progress and is preparing us to big deceptions, disappointments the day we will go back to the spiritual world, where anyhow everything what is material, even the physical body, we will have to live here. But at least Nikola Tesla or Edison or those guys, they had, of course, earned a lot of money through their mission. But when they get back to the spiritual world, they had the conscience of having contributed to the progress of the world. And this is indeed facilitating a lot this transition back. Stevan,
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So it's good to be here. And let me know how I can help today. I don't want to say something you already said.
The question now is, okay, we are working, so we have seen that important is to work with the intention to contribute to the spiritual progress, but also to contribute to our own progress or the progress of our peers and collaborators and even our bosses. Huh? So in this way, Stevan, the question is, how do professional challenges contribute to the spiritual evolution?
Well, I would say it contributes. I would say it contributes a lot, to be honest, because we need to understand that we are spiritists outside or inside of the spirit center. If I do have problems in my professional area, I need to do this problem like a spiritist does, act. So I needed to be spiritist. So I need to see the angles. I need to see things without judgment. I needed to be humble enough to say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I screw up. I made a mistake." And when you spot something wrong, it's not you. You do not need to expose that person. So you need to work with them, like you did like you do something when if you are in the spirit center. So if I am a spiritist person, inside, outside, this work a lot. This will improve a lot. But if I am that person that I am only spiritist, I'm just following the spiritism principles. When I am this at the spirit center, so this causes you more problems than anything.
Yes, indeed. And there are a lot of ways to put spiritist teaching in practice. We told a little bit about a little bit about the family, which is one type of work to take care of the family, educate the children, and so on. But at work as well, we have teams, we have peers, we have suppliers, we have customers, and it's very seldom to have a work when we can work isolated. It's also helping us to behave in the society, isn't it? Albeit it is with a commercial relationship, it does not prevent of putting in practice some spiritist principles. And maybe I don't like much to talk about myself, but it helped me a lot, particularly when you have difficult problems. The first virtue is when there is a huge difficulty is patience. Okay, let's be calm, let's keep cool, let's think, let's reflect, let's maybe wait for the next day or whatsoever, and then let's join together in how we can collaborate, join our efforts in order to overcome this problem or this difficulty. Work is more and more now teamwork. So teamwork is not just you do this, you do that, a manager giving orders. No, it's teamwork is also about the leader which is together with his team, participating in order to motivate everyone to reach the objectives. So having good relationships with our worker is today mandatory if you want to have an efficient team. The teams which are put under too high pressure or whatsoever do not obtain so good results as the team which are working with the so-called spiritual intelligence, isn't it?
Yeah. Julio?
Honesty, integrity, ethics, compliance. These are words which are more and more used nowadays and I'm very happy to having lived this at the end of my career. At the beginning, it was not so clear, but towards the end, these values became amongst the most important in the company's policies. And this was absolutely in line, integrity, honesty are the values where we can find ourselves, the compatibility with the values which come to us through the Spiritist teaching and the Spiritist body of knowledge. What do you think
Yes.
about this, Julio?
I think it's a very important topic for all the times and not just now. And when we think of leaders, people who were great managers, there's a name that comes to mind. There's no leader like, and that individual is Christ. And Christ is the highest evolved individual that one can think of after God, obviously. And the question is, could Christ have done his work by himself? Could Christ have done the work alone? Well, if he is so highly evolved, the answer is absolutely yes. As a matter of fact, in the Spiritist philosophy, we learned from different Spiritist literature that Christ is actually the co-creator of planet Earth. So what we know of Christ is only how much our brain can actually comprehend, because there's much more, because it transcends our capability of understanding someone who actually existed way before we did. And so, yes, Christ could have done his work by himself. Now, what did he do? Did he work by himself? No. He chose 12 complicated individuals. Complicated individuals to the extent that gave him headaches, abandoned him, betrayed him. And what was his leadership? What was his management style? Well, I need to help these individuals understand the differences between one another so they can work together for a common cause. And when we bring this concept to Allan Kardec philosophy for the Spiritist movement, he established three three requirements for us to do the work: to work, to have solidarity, and tolerance. And people, unfortunately, have a very limited definition of the word solidarity. When they see the word solidarity, they think of almsgiving, giving food and shelter. That's all good. But that is a very limited definition of solidarity. Solidarity, if you look at the dictionary, is to work together for a common cause. So thieves trying to rob a bank, they have solidarity among themselves because they have a common cause, which is to steal the bank. Football players in a game, they are solidarity towards one another because they have a common goal, which is to score the goal. But in a game, if all the players were goalkeepers, that would not be convenient for the team. If all the players were defense, that would not be convenient for the team. So the harmony, the efficiency of that team lies on their differences, on the diversity of talents. So if someone wants to work in a team, that's what they need to appreciate. Each individual is different, and there's a reason for that. And as a leader, if I can actually utilize the diversity, try to make people comprehend that you can only grow with different people, not with the people that think like you, not with the people that sees everything like you. The law of nature is that you work with different people. You see, Charles, if all the fingers in my hand were thumbs, I would not even be able to, to grab this cup. The diversity of the size of my fingers, it's what make harmony in the movement of my hand. So if we want to seek a position of leadership, that's one of the first thing we need to comprehend. We need to work with diverse people and try to make these people shine, look at their potential and make them grow. And I think that's what Christ did with those 12 complicated, stubborn, low evolved individuals. Because if these were highly evolved entities, we would have the forever excuse that they were highly perfect and this is why the work went well. But he chose, Christ chose purposely 12 complicated individuals to work with to give us the message that this is the material that we have to work with while we are in the physical plane. But we should not seek illusion. There would not be any perfect individuals. There will be no perfect institutions. And when I have that perception, I do myself a very big favor. I avoid disillusionment. What is disillusionment? For those who are watching this and they like Buddhism, Buddha used to teach that one of the biggest source of suffering is disillusionment, which is coming out of illusion, creating illusions to yourself. So I create the illusion that people around me are perfect. My team is perfect. Everybody thinks like me. Everybody sees the way I see. And that illusion, Charles, creates a lot of pain, conflicts that only stalls any institution. It installs the family institution, it installs a work institution, it installs religious movement, and installs our philosophical movement, the spiritist movement, that lack of psychological maturity that we need to work with different people. Just to be very clear, when I say we need to work with different people, it doesn't mean that I'm going to accept everything that a person says to me, but I will value what they're saying to me. And probably my opinion would not be the less, his opinion would not be the less, but the combination of these two opinions will be the ideal solution to whatever problem we are facing at the moment.
Excellent, very well. Thank you so much, Giulio. And we welcome also our dear sister Silvia. Hello, Silvia.
Yeah, she's back. I was missing that
Hello,
smile.
everyone. I'm so sorry I was late. I was just in another meeting. It's nice to be with you.
Okay, so we already examined several aspects of the work, and including this difference between a leader and a manager. Jesus was more a manager than a leader, than a manager, and a leader which was accepted without promoting himself. He was accepted through his natural authority, his activity, his actions, the good he made. And he was even going further, saying, the one who wants to be the biggest amongst you shall be the one who serves you. And this is an incredible teaching. It would be good if this would be shared by all the leaders and managers throughout the world. But okay, patience, we will get there. We are not there yet, but we will get there. And Silvia, maybe we can ask a question to Silvia. Let me see here. Silvia,
An easy one.
what would you advise if someone feels unhappy or unfulfilled in their job? What would you advise to a person which faces such type of situation?
They're not
For
very
instance,
happy
who
at
is
work.
overmanaged and underled, as we just told.
That's a difficult question because we all have experiences of having terrible bosses. But I think basically, we need to look into ourselves. What is it about this job that's annoying me or that's making me unhappy? Is the boss difficult? Yes. And what can I do to make things a bit easier? Sometimes there is a difficulty in the way people treat others. Some people, they're managers and they feel they're very important. I give an example. That's something that happened to me. I mean, she was a very nice boss and everything, but for some reason she speak on me a lot. And I thought I was doing a good job. I came on time. I never missed a day. So what I did, I said, oh, that's the way she sees things and she needs to criticize everything. And I just started praying for her, actually, praying and praying. And whenever I got, I felt that I was being treated unfair, I used to pray for her. Wasn't easy. I must tell you that it wasn't easy. But I don't know, the prayers helped me, because I started not, if she said something that wasn't very pleasant, I just didn't feel the same way. I don't know how to explain it, but it wouldn't bother me so much. Also, I think eventually, actually, she was transferred somewhere else. And I think probably the prayers helped. But also, I mean, because sometimes a lot of the insatisfaction is that we're not happy with the work we're doing. We're not doing as well as we should. And, we do sometimes, I'm not going to be bothered this, I'll do this way. And so am I doing the work the way I should do? And if you feel you're doing it, but you're still not happy, start looking for something else. You start looking for maybe a new job, do a new training. Because sometimes it's just not happy with if you sort of being held back or whatever. And we always have the freedom to look for something else that makes us happy. It's not always easy to things, but I think, try to do some training, do some reading, and try to go into something that really makes you happy. And sometimes it's difficult, because if you have a job and you get a lot of money, you get paid really well, and you work really, really hard, the money sometimes will hold you back, but eventually I think you need to break the chain and find something that makes you happy. Look forward to going to work, because I think going to work is part of our lives. It's part of a process of learning that we have as a spirit. And to feel, and not to feel that whatever job you're doing, do the best you can, because that's the place you need to be at that time, and improve yourself if you can, to grow and do something that gives you more satisfaction. Because I think sometimes as well we feel that we are so qualified for the job we're doing, and we feel losing out. So be contented and do the very best you can in whatever situation, because even if you don't please others, you please yourself. Consciously that I've done the best job that I can within the situation I was in. And I think this makes you a bit more happy. It used to make me happy anyway, that you say, no, I've done a good job today. Doesn't matter what other people think. No, I worked really well. I did my best. And I think that's one of the things that help us. And thinking about Spiritism, that's what Spiritism teaches us, that sometimes we are in a place that we have to be. And then we have something to give, and we have something to learn. And it's, we can always find something else, do something different, make a change. I made a huge change in my life, because I decided that that life I had working crazy hours and wasn't enough for me anymore. So I just left that job, and people was asking me if I had won the lottery. When I decided to leave, someone was asking, did you win the lottery? Oh my God. No, I just leaving, because I want something that I can go to sleep without working during the night. And after I left this job, a month after I left the job, I was dreaming I was working. It's ridiculous. I had this dream that I was working, and I said, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. I said, oh no, I don't work here anymore. So I went to a job that I didn't have that kind of worries anymore, and I was happy. So I think Spiritism helped me as well. Many decisions that I took about jobs and life in general, the teachings that we receive in Spiritism encourage us to take the right road, I think, for us.
Yeah.
There you
You're
are.
gonna mute, Charles.
That's a good point as well, Silvia. How can the Spiritist body of knowledge help us in our professional work or professional activity? Stevan, for example, what do you think about this?
Well, I think we need to be honest first of all with ourselves. We can use a poker face and say, "Oh no, everything is fine," but inside of you, you know what's happening. You know if you are happy, if you are unhappy. Like Silva said, the financial situation may hold you for some time, but not forever or not for many time. If it holds you, you're gonna get sick. Then you're gonna have problems, psychological problems, family problems. You need to be honest with yourself. I think that's a good start. Julio,
Yeah.
uh, like working with psychology for many years, you should have seen these cases many times.
When doing therapy with individuals who are coming to complain about their work, usually what they say, I love my job. I just hate the people who are there. That's a very common saying. So as you see, this is not a problem with the activity itself, but with the people surrounding that same activity. So I wouldn't say that they have a problem with their job. They have a problem with relationships. And one of the main things that it's so interesting to stop and think about is the fact that we go to work, we go to school, we prepare ourselves for the workforce for our entire childhood, our youth, and our young adulthood. That's what we're doing. We are studying for 8 hours in order for us to work for 8 hours to guarantee a roof over our head. That's what a job does. However, relationships is something that we don't do only for 8 hours. We do 24 hours. You relate with people during your work hours, and then you go home and you relate with people. Even when you're sleeping, you're relating because that person could be snoring, and that's a relationship throughout the
Yeah.
entire night. And the interesting thing is that no one goes to school to learn how to relate with one another. People don't know how to relate with other people. So it's not that they have a problem in the workforce, they have a problem with relationships because they automatically think they know how to live with other people. And that requires a lot of study. It requires investment. How do I relate with other people? If I'm going to spend 8 hours in a place, the best thing I can do for myself is to do my part in creating a very healthy environment for myself, because that's a third of my life I'm spending there. And how do I do this? Well, there are many things that one can do. First of all, we should not allow sick people to drive us sick. Silva mentioned everyone had a bad boss in the past. Well, you see, that definition of a bad person really requires a whole analysis. When I was going to my bachelor years in college, I had this boss. Um, we work in a restaurant, in a catering hall, and this was the most expensive catering hall in the tri-state area. Back then, I'm referring to the year 2000 and 2001. A wedding of 6 hours cost people $80,000, and that was just to rent the hall. I'm not referring to the flowers, the limousines, the bands. Very rich place. And we had a boss that this man, I had coworkers that actually planned to kill this guy. That's how tough he was. But in retrospect, I'm so thankful to this man because he taught me so much discipline. We used to go around and make sure every silver every silverware was at its specific place in the chair, in the table. And this was about attention to detail. And in life, no matter what you do, if you're a programmer, if you are an astrobiologist, you need to pay attention to detail on how to do your work. It's the same principle. So someone who is undisciplined and they work with someone who is disciplined, that would automatically create a conflict of relationship. So this is where I have to utilize humbleness. What is humbleness? I know that I don't know. And what is pride? I think I know everything. And when I have that, then I don't learn anything because I think I know everything. So with humbleness, I'm going to ask myself, who is wrong here? Is it him or me? Am I the lazy person here in this relationship? Because I truly believe that no matter how bad the boss is, if we're fulfilling our job to the best capacity, we automatically gain that person's credibility and the relationship improves. But a lot of people, they come with this mentality, they want to do as minimum as possible. They look at the work requirement and there's 10 lines and they do 9.5 because they won't do a thing to do something extra. And then they spent years in the same position complaining that they are not earning more. And then I always ask them the questions: in what ways have you proved yourself that you can do the next job, that you can do the next level? What you have done? Nothing. And they complain that it's the boss. It's not the boss. It's your work ethics. You need to prove to your boss that you're capable of doing the next job by actually doing it, not waiting for an invitation for you to do it. That's how ambitious is a virtue for us to grow professionally in life. So if someone who's lazy, they're going to have problems everywhere. And obviously, there are those individuals, those bosses with a superiority complex. I'm the captain, you are the soldiers, obey my orders. That philosophy is very outdated. Let's go back to the management talk that Charles brought it up. And I think this deserves a whole virtual meeting for this alone, because there's so much to speak about this. But the current mentality of management, it's no, I'm not the captain, you're the soldiers. We are collaborators. I love that word. The prefix co means with, labor means work. We're working together for a common cause. And if I try as a manager to make those who are around me to shine, automatically they aspire to my expectations. And if I do my best as an employee, my employer will automatically look at me differently, and then I'll promote myself. I truly believe in that kind of work ethics.
Yeah, Julio, I think you are absolutely right. I think the people or the manager who are abusing of their authority to impose overwork or whatever to their collaborator is thing from the past. Slavery has gone, and nowadays the thing is to go, to convince, to collaborate, as you tell, to convince about the utility, to share the goals. And that is where you get the best out of your collaborators, and not by simply giving order, you do this, you do that, as you told. And this is also something who has dramatically changed recently. Albeit, of course, there are still some managers from the old style still, but the result they get out of their organization is much less than the others. And it's quite interesting now to see how new values are popping up, like spiritual intelligence. There was the IQ, then came the EQ, intellectual quotient, then the emotional quotient, and now we talk about SQ, spiritual quotient. And I found it very amazing because this notion of spiritual quotient came somehow out, even outside spirituality, isn't it? But there are so many points in common between this SQ and the spiritual values. And it's really also something who appeared recently. I mean, something like 2.5 decades ago. And it's really amazing. And no, I'm too old. I'm retired already. So, but I would really have liked to work in an organization valuing the spiritual values into the work. Albeit it's not, how to say, in exactly the same meaning as the spiritual paradigm, for instance, we talk about, but at least the values are shared. Humbleness, you told, helping one another and not competing anymore, really going together, uniting the efforts, and this is giving results. At the end, it brings more value, and the value for what? For the spirit, for the progress of the humanity, as we told at the beginning.
If you don't mind,
But even
Charles,
I
I'd
think,
like to add,
yes, go on.
it's so interesting what you said. These managers who, they talk down to their employees, they have a need to be feared. They want to be respected out of fear. And what they do, the result of that behavior is that they push integrity way out of the company. Now, what is integrity? It's doing the right thing when no one is looking. So that employee who fears the boss only do the right thing when the boss is looking. But when the boss is not looking, they do all sorts of bad things in revenge. So this is where having that mentality of the captain, you must obey me and fear me, it's counterproductive. It goes against someone who's trying to make more profit, because that resentful employee will not produce the same as a happy employee. But going back to the IQ conversation, this is very interesting because it's all related. Back in the early 1900s, when they created the IQ tests to test people's intelligence, back then, Charles, they predicted, who were the people that will be very famous according to their IQ score. And as the decades went by, for their surprise, those individuals with very high IQ did not become successful. The people with lower IQs became successful. And reason being, it's because individuals who are highly intellectual but don't know how to relate with other people, they cannot work in groups. And wherever you go in life, there is another human being you need to interact with. So people who are good in relationships, they're the ones who are successful. They're more prone to being successful because in order for us to survive, we need to work with other people. So this is another law in the Spirit's book, chapter 8 of the third part, Law of Society. It's impossible to live by ourselves.
Great. And Charles, just to say, our friend here, Rita de Casa Fernandes, says, Jesus said to Francisco of Assisi, love always, do good and forgiving always. It as a reflection for life. That's kind of summarize what we have here. Don't you think? So it's about 10 o'clock is our time. Let me go to the announcement, Charles, if you have finished. So if you have any more questions.
Sure. I hand over to you, Stevan.
Okay. So let me add my screen.
It's indeed a very interesting topic, and I think one live is not enough to cover it fully, but at least I think we covered most of the aspects.
Yeah, we can bring more. We can add this live in March as well. So yeah, we can do it. So announcements. No, okay. Here, our friend Francisco Florencio Anton will be in UK from tomorrow up to the 9 of March. And I believe my dear friend Silvia here will translate in some spirit centers. So you have the dates in the Buzz website, you have the dates, the spirit centers. So there is no reason to miss this. Also, on the 28th of March, we will have our friend Breno Malucelli. He's from Denmark, and he's a young spiritist who will give us a talk how to engage young people in the spiritist activities. So this is an important lesson for us, because we're gonna hear from a young person how call their attention in today we need to dispute with these screams and everything. So this is going to be a wonderful topic on the 28th of March at 7 p.m. And we will publish here the link. Also, Fraternity is celebrating their 34th year anniversary. So with a lot of people, including our friend here, Charles. So Medium's Book study group every Saturday from 10:30 with Charles, Munir, and Guilherme. Dr. Anaí Fonseca, she has a study group every Sunday from 8:30 to 10 o'clock regarding to Joana de Angelis. So
It's every fortnight.
is that fortnight?
Yes, it's a
Okay, so
fortnightly.
he's missing the
Okay.
fortnight here. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So in September, from 18 to 20th of September, we will have 3 events in Vergemont, in Belgium. One is the first European Spiritist Gathering. The second one is the ninth European Spiritist Gathering for kids, and the 9th European Spiritist Gathering for adults. So all 3 events in the same place. Save the date. Please join us in this huge event in Belgium.
Yes.
Okay, keep reading Spiritist Magazine. It's for free, but full of content. This is a partnership between BUS, Irish Spiritist Federation, and Spiritist Francophone. I read in French. The movement Spiritist Francophone. And keep listening Kardec Radio. So thank you, my friends, for your time. Thank you for replacing me, Charles. Thank you, Silvia, to see you. It's wonderful to see your smile.
Thank you. I'm sorry I had to come in late.
Yeah.
It's not every week that we have this study, but
and thank you, Julio.
Yeah.
Nice to see you again. It was
Hi,
great
Julio.
to be with you last month. Well, last month, no, beginning of this month. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your inputs. It's always welcome. Thank you.
My pleasure, my friends.
Okay.
Good to be here.
So that's it from us. I'll see you all next week on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your night or the rest of your day or afternoon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah. Bye. Bye.